5 ways to help your horse when the vet says there's nothing wrong, but you know there is. I'm Mandy McConaughey. I'm the founder and creator of the Shift Method. I used to be an avid eventer, eventing up to advanced level until I eventually got so burnt out, so depressed after having to put horse after horse down, not having the answers to all the issues my horses had, and just watching these issues getting worse and worse and worse. In the time that I had off from horses, I went traveling around the world. I ended up in lots of pain myself, actually in bed, crippled 24 hours a day, unable to basically move with back pain. And my journey led me to some really funky and weird stuff. And what I've done is I've taken the most essential pieces of the things that I learned and I put them together. What I've done is I've taken the most essential pieces that I found in all these therapies and I've created a method using these things to find the root cause of the symptoms that we're seeing in our horses. Because what I encountered was that traditional methods were not going to help me. They were not helping. There was no solution if I didn't find something else. During my equestrian career, I worked with some of the highest names in the business. I worked with Olympic eventers. I took my horses and I trained with them. I just wanted to learn to do the best and be the best and help my horse the most. But it didn't matter who I trained with. Nobody had any answers to these mystery things like the horse biting you when you do its rug up, the horse biting you when you tack it up, vices like weaving. There was never any answer. But what I find is that now I always have some kind of answer. I can do something and it makes the horses change, it makes their behavior change. I then started my business in 2018, 7 years ago, with no idea, no thoughts of ever working with horses. I was really enjoying working with people. I loved how people could describe to me how they felt and the differences they could feel in their body with every little thing I did. And I could see so clearly how their movement was changing and how their gait was changing. But by chance, I was home one time and somebody asked me, well, can you do this on a horse? And I was like, well, I probably can, yes. So I started out and I would go around with my partner at the time and I would literally have him on a therapy bed and I would work on his muscles to see what the muscles of the horse were doing. And it would take a long time, but it was really interesting to see just how well the horses responded to this. This was more of a manual technique, and over time, I introduced some more emotional techniques, and this is when I really saw astounding changes in the horses. Eventually, I then took the step during 2020. I took the step and I bought myself some horses. I bought 2 horses. I was like, I know what I'm doing now. But of course, I got the perfect horses to bring me on. I kept hitting dead ends. I kept being like finding areas where I couldn't help this thing, and so I would go out and I would look for a new way. I would look for a different thing, and everything I found that helped, I kept just adding it in and adding it in, and it's created this thing called the shift method. And I've called it the shift method because every time I work with a horse, I see a shift, whether it's in their mind or in their body. There's always some kind of shift. So, what I'm going to cover in today's webinar is how you can help your own horse without bringing in professional after professional to keep being told that they have no answer. You'll discover exactly how I worked with my own horses and other people's horses to solve issues such as herd-bound behaviour, vices like weaving, pawing, napping, and muscle atrophy, behavioural issues that are related to tacking up, as I said earlier. You know you've got a saddle, it's just been fitted, it's perfect. There's no way it can't fit, but the horse is still biting and kicking and swishing its tail. So I'm going to cover these things where the horse is finding something stressful, but above all else, I'm going to cover how it helped me enjoy my horses so much more without having to worry about these issues they had, but I couldn't solve. So who's this video for? If you've had your horse checked by a vet physio, a saddle fitter, and you're still having still having issues, I'll cover the basics and benefits of the shift method. If you've tried to communicate with your horse, or you've had a communicator try to communicate with your horse, and either they won't let you in or you can't get your mind out of the way, I'll show you the exact strategy that I use to get the answers directly from my horse without having to communicate with them telepathically. If you are spending a fortune on calming supplements that work for a wee while and then they stop working and you're left with half a tub of expensive calming supplements, I'm going to show you exactly, I'll share with you exactly how I managed to ditch the supplements for good and manage any of these symptoms, the vices that pop up with ease. So I'm going to start today by talking about emotions, then I'm going to go on to pain pathways, bone torsions, slowing it down, how we can actually see better what's going on with our horses, and finally muscle testing. So before I proceed into the training, I just want to let you know that if you get value from me and everything I cover in this video makes sense, I will be revealing an opportunity to work with me at the end of this video. I pride myself on being transparent with you and feel it's important to do so. Is that okay? Awesome. So let's not waste any more of your time and let's begin. First of all, the brain's role in pain. So the brain is a organ in a box. That is what it is. But it controls everything. It controls everything because the nerve endings around the body send messages up to the brain receives the message, and then it can do one of two things. It can contract and relax muscles, or it can secrete hormones, and the hormones then become the emotions. This is important to know because very often we see there's an issue in a tissue. We're like, oh, the horse is lame on the front left leg, so the problem must be on the front left leg. But the problem with this is that the way the brain controls the body is in response to the trauma, it creates compensation. There are different compensation patterns. The ones we all know and feel in our own body are a withdrawal. If we touch something really hot, the brain pulls the hand away so quickly. When this is in a nerve ending, it's more of a subtle pull, and so the brain's always trying to withdraw the tissues away from the nerve ending, which is telling the brain that there's a problem. The nerve ending sends a message, a signal that's elevated up to the brain. The brain then goes, right, okay, you're sending me an elevated signal, so this means there's a problem. So when the nerve endings send a signal up to the brain, what the brain does is that it doesn't receive these and act on these signals as they are. It runs it through some filters, essentially, of life experiences and memory, emotional associations, and beliefs and conditioning. There are others, but these are the really important ones for our horse. If our horse believes that the saddle is going to hurt, it doesn't matter how well you fit that saddle, the belief that the saddle's going to hurt will override everything. The brain then will send a message to the muscles under the saddle, the spine, blah blah blah, and will create this reaction of the biting, turning around to bite or kicking or swishing the tail, because that's the horse's way of communicating with us. It can't say, oh, by the way, that saddle really hurts. I know you've just fitted it, but it's just not comfortable. Like if you ever put on a pair of shoes that should fit you perfectly, but they're just not comfortable. This is the kind of thing that we experience that's similar to what the horse would experience when it's having these filters run through the signal the nerve ending is sending. So when the brain then contracts and relaxes muscles, we get a response that we see as misbehavior. But actually, it's not misbehavior, it's communication. And it's up to us to listen to this and see this. And when we are aware and looking at these things, and that's when we can take action. We can see these things and we can tap into them. This is the way I've developed, is that you can see, right, okay, My horse wasn't weaving. He was totally chilled out in the stable. This thing happened, and now my horse is weaving. With the shift method, you have the opportunity to then use these triggers in a way that you can release the emotional trauma or the trauma of the body, the bones, the pain, the thoughts of the old pain and suffering. You can release them, and once they're released, it's like resetting the pathway to the brain. It's just not there anymore. The other thing that the brain does, as I said, is it secretes hormones. And why is this important? This is really important because our hormones are related to our organs. Our emotions are also related to our organs. So when we have an increased signal to an organ which secretes more of the hormone, the emotion changes as a result of this. The one that we all know is the heart attack signal. It's the most famous one. People, the biggest sign of a heart attack is a sore left arm. Now, in people, this is because the heart is related to the subclavius, which is here. And so when the signal to the heart increases, the subclavius becomes weak and the arm becomes sore. It's called a referred pain. This exists in horses as well. It's so much easier to understand it in our own bodies because we live in our own bodies and we don't live in a horse's body. But when we are sad, we often crouch over and want to hug ourselves in a kind of crouchy way. I don't know if that's the best way to describe that. But that's because the sadness is related to the stomach, grief is related to the lungs, and it's the same thing. We can't breathe properly when we are so full of grief. You can't take big, deep breaths because your lungs are not receiving the right signal from the brain and producing the right hormones, and so they're not functioning as they should because of the emotion. So it's really important to just have the overall broad awareness that the brain is in control of everything, but it relies on the signals and the messages sent to it from the nerve endings around the body. When there's a trauma, when there's a physical problem, the signal gets increased, then the brain has to change what it's doing. It creates compensation patterns, and it also changes the amount of hormones being secreted in the organs, which then changes our emotional state. And this is when we see behaviour issues come out with horses. The second thing I'm going to cover is knowing your horse's history, because their history is also unique to them. If we know that this horse has always done this, that gives us a clue. It gives us a clue if they've always done it and we know they did it with the past owner, or we've known them all their life and we know they've always done it. This can lead us to a generational emotion. It can lead us to a birth trauma, the way that foals come out of the mare. If the mare's standing up and the foal thumps to the ground, this can torque a whole load of bones on the day of birth. If the mare has some kind of a really stressful pregnancy, the foal can come out holding on to these stress emotions. The other huge thing that I find with horses is weaning. Because we force wean horses, right? They're 6 months old, 9 months old, it's time to wean them. We take the foal away from the mare, and then the foal possibly never sees the mare again. The foal maybe gets moved off the property on that day. So not only does the horse grow up every time it travels, the travelling reminds the foal of the day it left its mare, this broken-hearted feeling of how it just longs for its mum. And this is such a real thing. It's something I come across time after time after time. Horses with core wounds around birth, weaning, travelling. They're three of the biggest things. And that's why we often see when we buy ourselves a new horse, like I've never bought a horse and it's not done something completely out of character within the first week or so. One of my very first horses, I'll never forget it, William. I took him up to a competition got him out the trailer, and the first thing he did was rear up and try and run away. And I was like, "Whoa, what is this? This is not the horse I bought." But they're going through such a huge emotional upheaval in that time. It brings up all these emotions, which then start to fester in them. And I mean, a horse can completely change character just from moving homes. And people often think, oh, it's because that person can't handle them, or it's, it's the person. It's not, it's the horse. It's the horse is having a massive trauma brought back up in its whole system. It's desperately longing for its mum. It's brokenhearted. It then meets all these new horses and new people. Maybe the new horses remind the horse of a pastime when it was with a horse that was similar to it, or a person that has the same mannerisms, a way of speaking. It can be as simple as, it's a man looking after me now, and when I was born, a man looked after me. And so every time they see that man, it takes them back to when they were born and being with their mum and then leaving their mum. It's such an interesting topic, but I can't talk about this for the whole webinar. Well, I could, but I'm not going to. So emotions are like one of my favorite things to work with horses. I'm going to show you this clip. This is a video of my horse Simba. He had just come in from the field after getting super wound up in the field because the guys were out shooting. They're in a field that's surrounded by trees. I have not yet worked on them in this field with the sound of the guns. I've worked on them in the big field where they can see lots, and they're fine there. They don't care about the shooting there. But I've moved them fields, and I've not done this work on him. So he came in, and as you can see, he started weaving. This is a historical thing. I've worked through it. Maybe done an hour and a half, 2 hours work in 5 years on him and weaving, and the weaving has stopped.
How he feels about himself in the current time.
But the weaving came back. And so I was like, okay, well, why have you come back? 3 years old. Emotional trauma is not
how he felt about himself when he was
there 3. Can be more than one situation that creates the same feelings in our body. And with a horse, when it feels these feelings, the behaviour that goes with the feelings will often be similar.
Original's a past generation.
I know it's not because he's missing his friend Merlin, because Merlin's standing on the left, because that used to be something that would really trigger it, but
no more of that
he doesn't leave anymore when I take Merlin away. He doesn't. He used to be really herd-bound. He'll now go and graze in a different field, round the corner, over the burn, completely out of eye shot. He's not herd-bound anymore. But the weaving came back. So you can see, if you watch the video, he's doing it. He's attacking Duke. Then he stops, goes for a walk around the box. And when he goes for a walk around the box, that's just after I've released an emotion. I think he's already done it once in this clip.
The emotion,
but he's about to do it again.
Somebody loves.
He's going to go into the stable and walk around the box.
This horse here. The originals from
if you look at this compared to where we started, so I'll just reverse a bit, sorry. There you go. So this is the beginning. Well, it's not the exact beginning. It's when I started filming. You can see he's tacking the horse on the right, his right. He's weaving, and he's going this biting, weaving, and he's going the biting. Now, if I fast forward, if you watch the box, you'll see it empties at some point. There he goes. Yeah, there he goes for a walk around the box.
He
so
does.
He's not
he
there,
reacts to having that emotion released.
He's evaporated. No, he's not. He comes back out. After I've released an emotion, I want to see what's happening now. So I'm not doing anything straight away. I'm watching. So I'm like, okay, he's still weaving a bit. He's looking at Duke, but he's not going for him the same as he was. So I go back in and I release another emotion at this point. I'm just going to fast forward. Then he goes for another walk around the box. There you go. That's him going for another walk.
He's got a big lump out of his bone on the left-hand side.
Yeah, he's going for another walk around the box. And when I say a walk
Release
around the
that bone
box, it's
torsion,
not an
which in turn
anxiety-filled,
released
oh my
fully the
gosh,
emotions
I
that
have
came
to walk
before
the
that.
box.
So we give it a
It's like
minute
a
and see how he
movement. The
responds.
movement helps them to process things. When we release them, it helps everything to move through the body. He does come back to the front eventually.
He's standing. I don't know if you can see this.
Simba. This is me zooming
He's
in.
standing
I'm like,
further back in his
is
stable.
he just standing at the back of the box? Is he like, what was he doing?
This.
So there's not this, you know, he didn't have to run round the box so he could come back and start weaving straight away again. He was content enough in there for a few seconds. He's come back out.
Work on
he's
why
still obviously
he's doing
going
that
for
to this
Duke,
other
but
horse.
there's not the same weaving thing happening. The weaving is dissipating. He's eating a bit of burdock, and now I go in and I'm working with, right, well, why do you want to do that? Why do you need to attack Duke?
So I'm going to
At that point, I actually released a bone torsion. Simba has a big lump out of his bone on the left-hand side of his face from an accident before I got him, which I've worked on a lot. But somehow this was being driven to do with the sound of the guns and the running around. So I've just released the bone torsion, and you can see he's like going, oh, okay, right, and it's like literally moment after moment, stuff's changing. And this is why I love doing this work with horses, is that you can see actual proper real-time change as opposed to just standing watching it going, oh shit, excuse me, I just wish this would stop. What can I do to help him? I don't know what I can do to help him. I'll just walk away so I don't have to see it. Because that used to be my only option when I didn't know what to do, is just don't look. And now we're moving towards the end of the clip. He's come back out. He's not trying to attack Duke. He's not weaving.
To get the other horse.
And I'm like, cool, right.
He stopped weaving.
That's kind of where I can get him to today.
And Cam has
resumed. And then that's the end of the clip. Yeah, it's like real-time changes, and it's something we can do. What can you do if a horse is weaving? You can't call your vet. The physio can't help you. Who can help you with a horse that's weaving? We can help ourselves. That's who can help. We can do the work. We can release these emotions. It's the easiest thing to do. And it's so empowering to be able to be like, I just did it. I just helped my horse. I can see the horse is so much happier. I now feel so much happier. I feel so confident, powerful, and like, instead of just feeling at a loss and stressed, which is what I used to feel. I had a horse that was a box walker a long time ago. And he would walk and walk and walk and walk and walk and walk and walk. And the only thing that stopped him walking was the rope with the block. So whenever he was in, he lived attached to a rope that was really long with a block. And he could lie down flat out, and he loved to be attached to this rope. Well, he didn't love it, I'm sure. That was my thinking. He loved to be attached to the rope. The rope gave him some form of comfort in some way. I could never 100% figure it out, but the moment he knew he was attached, it was either that he gave up trying to walk, or the rope soothed him in some way. He probably just gave up, now I think about it. I can't walk, I can't do the thing I want to soothe me, so I'll just stand here. And sometimes I could not clip him up, but as soon as he realised he wasn't clipped on, he would start walking again. There was never anything to stop this. And I am 99.999% sure that now I could have worked with his emotions. I could have released these emotions, the need to do this box walking. And I bet anything, it would have just disappeared. I'm going to play you another clip here. This is a lady that I recently worked with. I find it's really interesting to be able to hear a person describe what they feel after having emotions released. Now, The vast majority of everything I did with this lady was emotions. I would say 95% of stuff was emotions. It was just emotion after emotion after emotion. And this is her at the end of her session.
It's incredible. I noticed that my ankle is more flexible. I feel my shoulder like down. I mean, here like that. And yes, it's a very subtle sensation, very subtle. I feel really better.
If you feel your neck is moving better,
Definitely, yeah. And my pelvis feels like it's straight now. I always felt like I'm completely twisted. The right side's forward, left side's back, and hitched and all that. And the pain in the SI joint is basically gone, as just a tiny bit. And it's been really bad for months. So yeah, this is great. Okay, move. This is good.
it's so important to realize that we're not just affecting the mind when we're releasing emotions, we're affecting the body. You know, she felt her shoulders drop because the first thing we do when we're tense is we everything goes and it's the same with the horses. Everything tenses up in response to emotions because their emotions are what are going to help save their life if they're going to be a predator. If they need to drop into their fight or flight reflex, they've got to be ready. All the muscles have to contract to suddenly move if they're going to be able to run away. And so we're not only affecting their mind, we're also affecting their body. And that's when we see the huge changes in the behaviour. So I say emotions are my favourite thing to talk about, but they're one of my favourite things to talk about. I also love talking about pain pathways. Pain pathways are pathways that are communicating between the brain and the body, and they're all about our experience of pain. Past suffering, past pain, they can literally create more pain and suffering when they are stimulated. We also have pain pathways related to noise and related to vision. And these are really important because the noise pathways, especially, you know, when we've had a fracture with a person, or if a horse has had a trauma where it's crashed into a gate, crashed into a fence, it's been hit with the whip, all these things cause noise. Even when we put our leg on the horse, it creates a noise. We don't hear it, but the horse's brain hears it, just like our brain hears the noise of our clothes moving across our skin. We don't notice it on a day-to-day thing. But if we've had a trauma and if we've maybe got a scar, very often scars hold audio as well. Audio, I get mixed up. Very often scars hold audio pain pathways, and we don't like to wear clothes that will either move across it because the noise makes our brain go, oh my God, I don't like that. And so we'll start wearing, say I had a scar here, I would probably wear a vest like this. So clothes were never over the scar. I do have lots of scars all over my face from when I got kicked in the face by a horse. And I used to really dislike the wind, especially here. I've got scars here, here, and here. I used to really dislike the wind moving over my face because even the wind hitting our face, it makes a noise. But as I worked with all these scars, took away all these pain pathways, the wind stopped bothering me, the rain stopped bothering me. When the raindrops land on your face, they make a noise. So sometimes we get the horses having the audio pain pathways, and the other one, there's two more that are really important. One is a visual pain pathway. These are active when we have a trauma. The first thing the brain does is it wants us to look at the trauma. This allows the brain to then secrete a morphine-like substance for pain control. But when this pain pathway becomes dysfunctional, we always are drawn, our brain, I say we are drawn, our brain is wanting us to look at the area of trauma, because the area of trauma is constantly telling the brain, I've got a problem, sending this high signal, I've got a problem, I've got a problem. Now, consciously, we're like, but there's no problem. This injury happened 10 years ago. All the tissues are now healed. But these pain pathways can remain dysfunctional for decades, our whole life, if they happen at the very beginning of our life. And you maybe meet some people sometimes and they don't make eye contact, but they're always looking a certain way. And this can be one of these pain pathways, the visual pain pathway, in effect. The reason this is really important is that, say, well, I mean, I've got a scar here, another scar covered in them, horses. If this still had the audio pain pathway, right, and my arm is down here, right, my brain is going to constantly want me to look like this if it's a dysfunctional pain pathway. But to do this, I have to contract muscles at my neck and my neck here. I have to particularly contract this one and relax this one. And I have to relax the muscles at the back of my neck, my brain, to do this. So when you're wanting to ride forward, trot, 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 and you're holding your hands in front of you, if my brain is wanting to look at that scar and I'm trying to ride straight, but my brain wants to do this, I'm going to struggle to stay straight in the saddle. And this is when we get these kind of rotation things that start to happen when we're riding. And it's exactly the same with the horses, except they are long and their head's at the front. So if they've got something happening with their pelvis, for example, say like one of mine did, he knocked into a wall going out of a stable. He hit into the wall really, really badly, and he cut his skin and went lame for quite a few steps, but he was fine. He's technically always going to be wanting to turn his head to look at that pelvis. And if he's wanting to turn left all the time because the brain's wanting him to look at this pelvis, and I'm wanting him to do a right hand circle or a right hand shoulder in, he's going to really struggle to do that movement. And there's no amount of training, there's no amount of anything that is going to make him be able to do that movement with ease unless we work with the brain. And that's why it's so important to use methods that are working through the brain and the central nervous system, because that's what's in control. So that's where we've got to go to fix the things that we really struggle with. I had a horse like this when I was younger, could not do left shoulder in for love nor money. And my trainer was like, you need to kick him harder, you need to hit him, right? And practice it and do it over and over and over again. And now I see how futile all that effort was, because the more I did it, the more it stressed him out, because the more his brain wanted to look the other way, or whatever was going on with him. I didn't know any of this at that time. And so very often it can be a ridden thing. It can be so many different ways these things come out in. The fifth pain pathway, I don't want to throw lots of big words out here, but it's to do with the emotional component of pain. It links physical pain to emotional and hormonal reactions, which is why chronic pain can make you feel anxious, stressed, or exhausted. This pain pathway basically bypasses conscious thought and it goes straight to the fight or flight mode, which changes things like heart rate, digestion, and hormone levels. And it's why we sometimes will experience, when we have a trauma, like when we stub our toe like 5 or 6 times or however many times, or we get this injury, we'll get like hot sweats and sometimes even can cry just after it's happened, because there is an emotional component to pain. The key things about these pain pathways is that they cannot be medicated with pain relieving drugs like NSAIDs morphine, benzos, nothing affects them because they're on a different level. It's like pain on a completely different level that drugs can't get into. And so quite often when you're seeing a horse, it's this, right, it's the front left leg, that's definitely where the problem is, and you can nerve block up to the shoulder and the horse is still lame. Okay, it's the front right leg, and you can nerve block both front legs and the horse is still lame, because it's beyond nerves, this pain. This is actually my mum's horse. She's always been head shy. It's just who she is. And Mum mentioned to me one day, do you think you can do anything for her? And I said, well, sure, I'll have a play. And I do call it a play very, very often because I'm having so much fun when I do it more than anything. And you can see that before is on the left. When she reaches up to touch her head, she flicks her head back. She doesn't really want the ears touched, the eye looks tense. There's a few things going on there. You can see this horse is not happy. Then on the right here, you'll see when she goes to put her hand up, you get one wee flick of the ear, but there's no full recoil from the hand, because the whole basis of the reason this is going to hurt, the filter, the hand comes up and then my ears hurt, that's gone. So she can see the hand approach, and now it's just a hand approaching and she can deal with it. I'll play it one more time for you to watch. It was great. It was such a great session. I think it took about 5 minutes. So these pain pathways, they're being produced by the brain and the spinal cord, and basically you can't bypass that pain. And the brain and the spinal cord can continue to generate the perception of that pain via central sensitization, by amplifying it, neuroplastic loops that no longer need the original injury, and mirror neurons or stored emotional pain reactivating the circuit. In these cases, the local nerves, they aren't the problem anymore. It's part of this replayed pattern. And there's nobody even talking about this stuff within the equine world. Never mind giving people a solution how to dissipate that pain. And if I tell you it's easy, you won't believe me. It's the easiest thing ever. It's just so simple. You just need to know how. And this is what I want to bring to the equine world, is knowing how to reset these pain pathways, because I feel like I see when I work with horses that they are responsible for so many things. In people, very often people who are missing limbs, they talk about phantom limb pain. Basically the same mechanisms apply in chronic pain and animal trauma patterns. When we're talking about the nerve block thing, for example, the nerve blocks, they're treating the wire, not the power source. And if the pain is being driven by a pain pathway that's looping round and round, or an emotional imprint, or central sensitization, the wire's not the thing that's faulty, it's the signal coming from the power source, the brain, the spine, or the reflex map, that's actually the problem. So we have to look at how we can go to the brain. This is a lady who's on the course. She'd been on the course for about a month, and we had a one-to-one, and afterwards we were just chatting, putting the world to rights. She's actually a Masterton practitioner, so it was really interesting to hear her views and how she felt that the shift method worked in with what she already knows and does.
They now seem to be fitting saddles very quite tight, really snug. They don't like to leave a bit of space for the muscles to grow into it. So imagine if they do that and they go, okay, well, it's been fitted by the professional, so it can't be the saddle, crippling the horse. And they have all those physios, osteos, you name it, treating these top horses, and they're all saying, oh, we're doing a great job, and he's fine. They don't know any different. They don't know that that's wrong.
If they're fitting a saddle, even if they fit a saddle and it is perfect for that horse, if that horse has had a badly fitting saddle at one point, and every time the horse sees a saddle, it goes, oh my God, this is going to hurt. I remember the suffering, the pain and suffering, and these pain pathways.
Yeah.
No saddle is ever going to be comfortable, even if it fits perfectly, because
Yeah.
of pain pathways. They will create pain just related to the saddle, and it doesn't matter if it fits. So without treating even the torqued bone, the torsion on the scapula, the pain pathways to do with the saddle, to do with what the horse thinks when it sees the saddle, they're always going to be fighting a losing battle. And this is what I would love with the shift method, is for saddlers to be going out and being like, right, okay, before I even put a saddle on, I'm just going to release any bone torsions. I'm going to do any, release all things. Now I'll fit the saddle, because your horse's back will actually be able, the horse will be able to go, oh my God,
that feels
saddle
better.
doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I love that idea, because if more people knew this and did this, it would make such a massive difference. Such a massive difference to all the horses around and all that, because you just see people doing the same old school stuff and, tell them off when they're naughty and treat them when they're nice and all that, But it doesn't actually go to the trigger or to the original where it's coming from. So yeah, I just love this.
And this is the case for everything that I'm going to talk about. It's all about going to the big things that are really troubling the brain, that are creating the big compensations that we see in the horses. This picture here is one of my own horses. I'm now wanting to talk about bone torsions. Now, again, it's something that is not talked about regularly. It's something that people aren't even aware of that happens. But when you look at his wither pockets just above the scapulas, you can see the top one is when I first bought him. He'd had a lot of badly fitting saddles. I'm going to say he had. He was a high-level show jumper, and that is what happens is they go into yards and they get the best saddle they have put on them. They don't always have their own saddles. And when I talk about bone torsion, I'm talking about when a bone is subjected to a rotational force that's beyond its normal range, and it can essentially become twisted. This can happen in response to, for example, hitting a jump when jumping, hitting the arena boards, spurs hitting the ribs. It can be the points of the saddles, as we see on this horse's wither pockets, the points of the saddles hitting on the top of the scapula. It can also happen during falls or accidents. So if there's a rotational fall, when you see horses eventing and they leave a leg and they have to completely twist their body, if the body rotates in an abnormal way, it can lead to bone torsion. Even if your horse is in an accident in the field, hits its head on another horse's mouth, or a horse hits its mouth on the other horse's head, should we say. They run into a gate, they run into a wall, they can hit their head on the stable. There's so many times we see horses make impact of their bones on something solid. And pretty much every time this happens, it creates this torque in the bone. On the video that you saw earlier of Simba weaving, at the very end of that, as I said, I treated this bone torsion because that was what needed to be treated in that moment. That's what he needed. And you could see that immediately when this torsion was lifted from him, he just calmed down. It's incredible how it has this insane effect on their neurology, on the compensation. It can create muscle balances and fascial tension, because the muscles and the fascia, they play a really significant role in how the forces are distributed across the bones. If the muscles on one side of the body are too weak or too tight compared to the others, they can create uneven forces that over time will rotate and torque the bone. Fascial restrictions, so the connective tissue that's surrounding the muscles and the bones, it can become tight or restricted. This can be because of injuries, it can be poor posture, repetitive motion, emotional issues. There's so many things that make the fascia go, and it holds us like glue in that position until we find the cause of it. And this is what I'm all about, is finding the cause of what we're seeing in these horses. All of this then can pull on the bones. The weak or overdeveloped muscles can cause abnormal movement patterns. For example, tight hip flexors or hamstrings can rotate the pelvis, causing torque on the femur or the spine. The bone torsions, they're so unknown and under talked about that we just don't consider what impacting a bone can actually have on the whole horse. And this picture, it astounds me looking at it that such a change can be created, because I've never known how to deal with these wither pocket anomalies. Sometimes it can be accompanied by high and low heel, and we go and we address the high and low heel hoping that'll even up the scapulas, but actually we have to deal with the problem where the problem started. I'm not going to go on and on about bone torsions. There's a really clear example of just how they can affect us. The sun's shining in my eyes and I can hardly see the screen anymore, but that's okay. So next I'm going to talk about what we can do to see where the problem is. And the first thing I always recommend doing is slowing it down. Film your horse in slow motion on the camera. Every mobile phone has the option to do a slow motion. So what I like to do is I like to get my phone and I sit it on the ground with the camera sitting a couple of inches off the ground like that. I maybe prop it against a book or a rock and then activate the slow motion, and I walk the horse up and down to the camera so I can see them walking forwards and back. Then you can do the same with it at the side. And I like to again keep it really low because you get to see a really clear picture of the footfalls. So this is my little dog JJ. I'd been away for a wee while and I came back and she was hopping lame, as you see on the left, and then the next morning, maybe about 10 hours later, after treating some bone torsions, this was the difference. And it's just, I feel so privileged to have been able to have given her that. And it was incredible, it really was. This is Merlin. So what I notice is that his front left leg's pulling really medially as he brings it forward just before he puts it down, but also you can see the tension up his forearm above his knee where the tendons, muscles are really tight, and that's what's creating this pull over. And afterwards we didn't have the same medial pull. And this is Simba. Here I worked on some bone torsions and some emotions, to be quite honest, but there were still quite a lot of bone torsions in this treatment. And you see, before on the left, he's doing a lot of tail swishing. His legs are kind of coming in quite a bit. His right leg, there's not so much difference in the right leg at the beginning of the stride, but as he goes to put it down, it's straighter. And on the left, it's like he swung it medially to start with, then he swung it laterally, but afterwards it was much straighter. And really I noticed in his barrel was moving better. Everything was better in the second one. And it's really cool to be able to do these things for my own horses. I'll let you watch it one more time and feel free to pause this and see it as you want to see it. It does take a few times of going through these slow motion videos to see them properly. So this is Simba in the exact same walk, same film, same moment in time. The swishing of the tail, but you can see from the side that his front legs are taking a longer stride than the back legs, and the cannon bone and the forearm are not lining up. They should be parallel to each other. Whereas once we get into the after here, you can see that the timing of him peeling his front foot off the ground to allow the hind foot to stamp down is much better. The stride length is more even. And basically, as the hind end swings through, the front is moving out the way to allow the back foot to land. So it's much better timing. And this is coming from the other side. You can still see the stride length discrepancy from front to back. You want to be seeing a nice triangle that's about the same shape when the legs are split, if you know what I mean. So in that moment, you look at the size of the triangle at the front matches the back so much more. And, you know, to do this in 5-10 minutes, make such a difference, it gives me so much more confidence to be able to just get on and go and actually ride my horse knowing he's feeling better in his body. Muscle testing is used by a variety of different therapies, such as applied kinesiology, PDTR, proprioceptive deep tendon reflex, and it's a science. A lot of people say, oh no, muscle testing isn't a science, but when I was taught muscle testing, I was taught it by an orthopedic surgeon, and this surgeon no longer operates anymore because he says that a truthful surgeon will tell you a third of operations make things better, a third do nothing, and a third make things worse. So he created this therapy, PDTR, and he based it on manual muscle testing. So we were taught to muscle test every single muscle in the body, and that's how I started off when I was working with the horses, as I said, with the therapy bed and my partner, and I would muscle test all the different muscles of the body. But then my partner and I split up, and I was left scratching my head going, okay, well, how am I going to work with horses now? I don't have anyone to take around with me. This all happened just before lockdown, so during lockdown I was playing with, you know, how am I going to do this, and how am I going to do it so I can work on myself more as well. And I went to basic, I started off by just testing my bicep, then I went to different hand tests, and I found a muscle test that worked best for me. There are so many muscle tests you can use. You can stand up and sway. You just think yes and think no. I mean, do it just now. Pause this video. Stand up, fold your hands in like that, and cross your arms over your chest. Think about putting your weight through your feet evenly, and then just think the word yes. And you'll feel that your body wants to fall forward or fall backwards. Then reposition yourself and think the word no. And you'll find that your body wants to fall forward or backwards. It's a really basic muscle test, but your muscles respond to your thought, to a positive thought or a negative thought. There's a really great book. It's called Power versus Force. And in that, they had auditoriums full of people. They asked them to pair up. They put sachets underneath their chair. Some had sugar in it and some had aspartame in it. Everybody who tested the sugar, with applied kinesiology, the way they do it is they hold the food in front of their stomach, and then you test an arm. If the arm goes weak with the food in front of the stomach, it means the food's not good for you. If the arm stays strong, it means the food is good for you. So in these auditoriums, time after time after time, everybody, when they held sugar, in front of their stomach, their arm would stay strong. But when they put aspartame in front of their stomach, their arms would go weak, because aspartame is a neurotoxin. It is actually poisoning our brain, but we don't know that. We just know that it's a sweetener and it's a sugar alternative. We don't understand about just how bad it is for our body. And so I read the book, I learned about muscle testing, and I use it for everything. I use it to work on myself, I use it to work on my animals. And when the beauty of our hands, the reason I say to you to fold your hands down is that our hands are incredible things. They are full of receptors that read things. When we touch a piece of fruit, it reads whether there's pesticide on it, and we, unknown to us, we then react to chemicals that we touch. When we touch ourselves, if we touch an area of the body and then muscle test ourselves, we are specifically muscle testing the area of the body that we're touching. The other thing that the hands do is that when we touch another being, we take on what their central nervous system is doing. Now, if you've got a bad walk, if your body hurts when you move, if you go and put your hand on somebody's shoulder who has a really, really good walk, whose body doesn't feel pain when they move, and you walk together, right leg at the same time, left leg at the same time, your walk will feel better. Your body will feel less painful, because of mirror neurons. They make us like the thing we are touching. The hands have one of the densest concentrations of sensory receptors in our body. We have sensory receptors and motor receptors. These are sensory. They're special receptors. They detect pressure, vibration, texture, movement, heat, cold. And when we touch another being, our brain gets precise spatial feedback and subtle movement cues and temperature and tension information. The hands have a massive, massive brain real estate. We have the important things to consider when you're doing muscle testing is to have a clear mind, because our biases will affect our muscle testing. So when we're thinking, we are going to affect our muscle testing. We need to take our time, take some breaths, and really drop into your body. I like to really focus on my breath, and if people have worked with me before, they'll notice like I just stare off into the distance. I like detach myself from as much as possible when I'm working to really let the muscle test be as clear as possible. We need to be hydrated. We need to drink lots of water before we do it, because the dehydration, it can affect the accuracy of the muscle test. We need to practice. Just like anything, you need to practice. It's flexing a new muscle, pardon the pun. It's using a different part of your brain, and so it's all about practicing and getting familiar with the test, that you can trust it. You always would want to baseline check. You want to be making sure you're muscle testing the right thing. But muscle testing can be a science if you use it in the right way. The biggest problem that I have found with my own horses, and the biggest problem that I find with a lot of people all around the world, is that we don't have access to people at the drop of a hat who can drop everything and come and help us when we have an issue with our horse. We are subject to the people who are close to us. We use the physios that are close to us, the chiropractors. We can only get the people who we can get. This can be very expensive at times. Sometimes they maybe do travel for 2 or 3 hours. You're paying for fuel money, we're paying for repeated sessions. Sometimes the session makes a difference for a few days and everything goes back to normal. Sometimes the person leaves and you're kind of scratching your head going, well, not really sure what I just paid for there, but well, who knows? Then you're 6 to 12 weeks before the next visit. We've got vets, and vets are amazing. I always say consult your vet, but the main thing vets can do is they can do lameness exams, but I've seen a vet do a trot up of one of my horses that I knew had a problem, and he held his hock in a flexion test. While the hock was being held in the flexion test, the horse is biting me, it's flicking its head, like really going for me. And I'm looking at this going, well, this is quite obviously a pained behaviour. Like, he wasn't doing this, now you're holding the hock and he's biting me like crazy. I trotted the horse up and back, and the vet's like, oh, he's fine. And I'm like, well, but is he fine? Is he really fine? That was for an insurance thing, and so I wasn't going to point out to the vet that the horse was clearly in pain. But it makes you question sometimes when you see these things, how accurately a vet is able to correctly diagnose a lameness, as we were talking about earlier with the nerve blocking. We'll do leg after leg after leg after leg and still not know what the problem is. Vets are amazing for imaging. Their images are so valuable. We can work off of what we find in the images. But very often they come back and there's nothing wrong, there's no pathology, there's no answer, but the horse is still not happy. We can tell the horse is not happy. It's biting, or it's whatever the behaviour is it's doing. If there's not a pill or an operation that can be done, then we're kind of left by the vet going, okay, I've been told my horse is fine, but I know it's not. And this is the case for most behavioural issues with horse. I'm just falling over my tongue. And so we resort to things like calmers. We resort to things like essential oils. But all these things, they're just scratching the surface. I mean, essential oils can be amazing, but in my opinion, they're not offering the really, really deep healing that the horses require. And I just found that I was then left in a place where I was worrying about riding my horse because I didn't want to cause him pain. I could see he was stressed, and my life then started to become worse because I didn't have any answers to help my horse. I would reach out to different people, they would come, they would go. Some people would be amazing and really helpful, some people not so much. But it wasn't until I started working on my horses myself that I truly started to see a change, because I can do it so much more regularly. I can work on one thing and I'm like, great, that's an improvement. What's happened next time? What happens now? Okay, right, it's changed again, so what can I do now? And it's given me just so much more joy in having my horses. Like, it's just, I can't tell you the empowerment, the happiness is just like, it's a different world that I now live in, as opposed to when I had horses. They had the physio every week, the vet when something was wrong. I can't tell you the amount of injuries and illnesses and problems that, if I'd understood now how important, my horse bashed its head on the stable door. If I understood the importance of being able to deal with that in the moment when I saw it and just get rid of it, I think that a lot of my horses would have had a far longer competition life, a far sounder competition life, and in general, they'd have been with me so much longer. And it would have avoided me getting to the place where I was just putting horse after horse after horse down because I didn't have the answers. Being able to tap into the horse's neurological system, the emotional system, using muscle testing, it's simply the greatest gift I was ever given, and I can't imagine life without it now. The muscle testing gives me a way to navigate through the different layers of dysfunction that I find and get to the root cause of the behaviours I'm seeing, of the issues with the gait that I see. And like, I can't even count the thousands and thousands of pounds that I must have spent on this journey, and the time, the years, learning all these different things, and which bits of which therapies were really needed by the horses, which ones they prefer, which ones they don't really respond to the same. But overall how to use it in a way that really serves the horse best, the individual horse with its individual history. And so I teach you how to follow these symptoms and find and release these root causes, which makes huge changes to the horse in a really, really short period of time. And if you recall, right at the beginning of the video, I explained to you that if what you heard made sense and you felt that I might be able to help you in some way, that I was going to reveal a way that you could work with me. And I've actually put something together that I am so excited to share with you. It's called the Shift Method, surprisingly enough. It's a 14-part course, and it gives you all the tools to help your horse, all the things that we've discussed today, and also a way to do it when you don't have to actually be with the horse, so you can work with them in the depths of winter without freezing your feet off and your hands off. You can work with the horse, and then you can go and see them and be like, okay, what have I changed? You can work with your horse in person. You can work with yourself. You can work with your family, your other pets. It's like a limitless uses, many limitless. It's got limitless applications within your life. Module 1 introduces emotions and the organo-emotional relationship. It goes into a bit more depth about how emotions really affect us. Module 2 introduces the muscle testing. The most important thing is the muscle testing. Module 3 tells us all about emotional testing. And now we're into the good stuff. We get Module 4, which is the first release technique for emotions. Module 5 is the second release technique. Module 6 is the third release technique. It's the emotional neurotransmitters. Module 6 is the timeline technique. So now you've got 4 different tools that you can go and release emotions with your horse, with yourself, and the horse will tell you what one they want. Module 5 is the 5th one. That is a vibrational release, so finding the vibration and releasing that. Module 8, I then talk a bit more about the organo-emotional correlations and just exactly how each emotion is related to each organ, specifically going through every single organ that there is. Module 9, I take some time to teach you to put everything you've already learnt about the emotions together and start using it as one whole technique. Module 10, we go into the bone torsion. Then Module 11, we go into pain pathways. As I move through all this, I give you cheat sheets. So after the emotions work, you get a cheat sheet you can just print out and you have with you, so you don't have to keep going online and looking at the course. Oh, what did I have to do as you learn it? The same after the bone torsions and the pain pathways, you get another cheat sheet. Then we go into Module 12, which is entirely optional. It's another use for muscle testing. It's all about energy, the things we don't know are there, the things that we feel, and different ways to release these things. I included this because I find that the horses love it. They're desperate for it. I think it's because they have such a big energetic field. Their field expands meters out from them, versus us is just a small circle around us. They just love this work, but it's entirely optional. It's not everybody's bag. Module 13 is all about how you're going to put everything together. Everything you've learned in that course. I said originally at the beginning of this video it was 14 modules. It's not, it's 13 modules. So in this I teach you to find the priorities, to find the root cause, how to peel the layers of the onion. Essentially, we're going to look at our animals and ourselves as onions. The first thing we need to do is take the skin off and then see what's underneath. So I teach you to start peeling these layers, and I also teach you how to integrate this with any current work you do, whether it's a massage, whether it's Masterton, whether it's a chiropractor, whatever it is you're already trained in. I'm going to teach you how and when to use each different bit in the order that the horse needs. And that's the course. Before you know it, you're working with all these incredible things and seeing change after change with your horse. Alongside the course, there's a Facebook members group where people can chat and organise to work with each other, to practice. It's just a lovely wee community where we can troubleshoot anything you've got any questions about. I'm always monitoring it, and anything you've got a question about, you can just ask. I'm selling the course just as its own thing, as a self-study paced course, because really I just want this to reach loads of people so as people can help their own horses. I should be charging thousands for this information. I can't tell you the tens of thousands I have spent learning all this stuff, but I'm selling it for £495. If you are in the position where you want to work with me on one-to-ones, where you can afford to invest in really getting the best for you, getting the best for horses, if you've got some chronic health issues yourself or pain yourself, it's always worth considering the mirroring effect and whether it's us making an effect on our horse. And so I offer different levels of support. You can add on fortnightly fortnightly group calls where we'll go on Zoom. I troubleshoot any issues you're having. If you've got a really mad pain or something, I can work with you for 5-10 minutes and release that pain for you. If you're on a block that's I can't believe my muscle testing or something, I can just work with you for a few minutes and release that, and then you can really move on and get on with the course. And there's some packages where I've included some one-to-one work with myself. You have access to me on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger in the moment when you're going, I just need some help right now. And also we have our one-to-ones where, you know, we're really going to dive deep in your pain and emotional things, your horse's pain and emotion, who's affecting who's mirroring who. These are really good for owners who just want to make a huge difference really quickly. Not only are you working on your side of things where you're learning what you can do for your horse, I'm also there to get through this stuff really, really quickly and really see rapid transformation in the space of, 4-6 weeks. As an August promotion, the first 10 people who sign up will get free access to the group coaching calls. So if you're ready and you want to sign up, just click the link below. If you're interested in doing a more in-depth package, then click the book discovery call button and we'll organise a wee call where we can jump on and I can see how I can serve you the best with what's going on with you and your horse. So I just want to thank you so much for attending the webinar, for listening to the 5 ways that you can help your horse. And the vet says there's something wrong, but you know there is. I'm Mandy McConaughey and I wish you all the best.